The celebration is in full swing with the spacious hall decorated in police precision and elegance. The crowd is a mix of high-ranking officials, their spouses, and a few selected civilians. As the soft music and the hum of conversation in the background fills the noise. At the entrance, Jungkook, dressed in impeccably tailored black suit, steps with Soobin, his secretary, right behind him. Jungkook's eyes scan the room, his expression stoic and unreadable. Soobin, more lively, offers a polite smile as they approach their host, Officer Kim Namjoon. Never expected to see these faces, but anyways, I'm glad you guys could meet at last, he greeted, grinning broadly. Congratulations for the promotion. He nodded slightly, his voice low. I wouldn't miss the free food for the world, but you deserve this, Hyung. As they exchange pleasantries, Jungkook's sharp eyes catch the sight of Lee Jae-won across the room, a fellow officer of Namjoon's department. Jae-won is sipping his drink, his gaze locked on them with a mix of curiosity and barely concealed disdain. Jungkook noticed, but his expression didn't change. Soobin followed Jungkook's gaze and see Jae-won's piercing stare, but quickly returned his attention to Namjoon. It's looked like the whole department turned out for you, Hyung. Almost. It's a night to celebrate after all. But you know, it's just not about me. This is a night for everyone to enjoy. Not everyone seems to be enjoying though. Namjoon glances at Jungkook, then follows his line of sight to Jae-won. His expression tightens for a brief moment before he forces a smile. Jae-won, he's been with us for a long time. It's natural to have mixed feeling in these situations like this. You have worked hard for this, Hyung. Don't let anyone's envy dampen your night. You're right, nodding appreciatively. Thank you, Soobin and Jungkook. Thank you for both being here. I needed to make my rounds, but let's catch up later. Namjoon moves away to greet other guests, leaving Jungkook and Soobin standing together. Soobin watches Namjoon blend into the crowd, his expression thoughtful. That man's jealousy for Hyung is practically radiating from him. Do you think it will be a problem? He says, glancing at Jungkook. Not our concern, he muttered, turning towards the bar. Jungkook approaches the bar, catching the attention of the bartender with a slight gesture. The bartender quickly prepares a drink for him. Soobin meanwhile mingles with the crowd, engaging in light conversation and enjoying the party atmosphere. Jungkook stands by the bar, his gaze sweeping over the room, always observant. Jiwon's eyes are still on him, but Jungkook pays him no attention, focused instead on the task at the hand, blending in, staying unnoticed yet always in control. The scene fades with the tension in the air, a subtle reminder that in this world not everything as it seems. Jungkook knows it better than anyone, as being in this industry for so long, only few people know about his real identity. Rest of them, he is the businessman, the Jeon Jungkook, who is dominating the automobile industry, while underworld knows him as the most cruelest mafia. His phone vibrated as he fishes out from his pocket to see Claire calling him. His brows furrow as he quickly picked the call. Hello, Claire. He couldn't able to listen anything from the other side properly because of the loud music playing in the background. He decided to walk outside, but as just he was about to reach the door, someone accidentally bumped into him holding a glass of red wine, and the deep red liquid splashes across Jungkook's shirt, staining it immediately. Jungkook freezes, his initial reaction one of anger as his eyes flashes with irritation. He was about to open his mouth to reprimand her, but the voice low, barely restrained. But the words catch in his throat as he looks down at her. Her soft brown eyes meet his, pleading for forgiveness. Jungkook feels his heart skip a beat, his usual cold demeanor faltering as he finds himself lost in her worried gazes. It's unusual for him to allow anyone this close, especially a woman. He recognized her instantly. Wine, Namjoon's sister. He has seen her before at Namjoon's house, and something about her has always drawn his attention, but she never looked at his direction. Wayne, still flustered, grabs some tissue from nearby counter and reaches up to continue dabbing at the stain. Jungkook's hand suddenly shoot out, gently but firmly grasping her wrist in mid-motion. She freezes, looking up at him, her eyes wide with surprise. Jungkook feels his heartbeat quicken slightly, a foreign sensation that he is not used to, and one he quickly tries to dismiss. "It's fine," he said softly yet with authority. Wayne blinks, taken back by his sudden calmness. She expected him to be furious, but instead he just looks at her with an unreadable expression. Wayne stands there, a bit dumbfounded, her hand still holding the tissue. She watches as Jungkook steps back, his expression once again neutral, though there is a faint trace of something else, something she can't quite place. Before she can see anything, Jungkook turns on his heels and heads towards the restroom, leaving her standing there, puzzled and speechless. Jungkook now away from the ballroom and the crowd, his mind racing with the thoughts he'd rather not to dwell on. Heading straight to restroom, intending to wash the stain out of his shirt. As he pushes the restroom door open, a man suddenly collides with him on his way out, brushing past Jungkook hurriedly without so much as an apology. Jungkook's temper flares, ready to unleash his frustration, but then he catches a glimpse of something tucked into man's waistband. It's the unmistakable handle of a gun. His instincts kick in, and every sense goes on high alert. This isn't just a coincidence and not an officer. He knows the danger when he sees it, and every fiber of his being tells him something is wrong. Without wasting a second, he pulls out his phone and dials Subin's number, his voice calm but laced with urgency. "Subin, come to the restroom now." The man is slumped against a brick wall, his face bruised and blooded, groaning in pain as Subin delivers another brutal punch on his face. Jungkook stands a few feet away, watching the scene unfold with an icy, detached expression. "Who the hell are you? Who sent you?" he snarls, grabbing the man by his collar. The man groans loudly, blood dripping from his mouth as he struggles to catch his breath. Subin raises his fist to strike again, but Jungkook lifts a hand, motioning for him to stop. Subin pauses, his chest heaving with exertion, but he doesn't release his grip on the man. "Let him speak." The man, battered and broken, spits blood into the ground, a twisted grin forming on his swollen lips. Despite the pain, he looks up at the Jungkook with mockery in his eyes. You think you are safe? You all are dead. My boss, he's here in Korea, and he's going to kill every single one of you who betrayed him. You think you are untouchable? You're wrong," he said hoarsely with a mocking tone. Jungkook clicks his tongue in annoyance, his expression hardening further. The man's words aren't unexpected, but they are still an irritant, an attempt to rattle him that falls flat. He steps closer, his presence radiating cold authority. "So you're just a messenger, sent to deliver empty threats." Voice low, almost bored. The man grins widens, blood staining his teeth as he laughs weakly. "Not an empty. You'll see, he's coming for you, all of you," spitting more blood. Jungkook narrows his eyes, his patience wearing thin. He glances at Subin, who is waiting for his command, ready to act on a moment's notice. Subin immediately understands, his grip tightening on the man's collar. The man's blood failed for just a second, but before he can react, Subin pulls out a gun, pressing it to the man's temple. The man's eyes widen in realization, but Jungkook doesn't even flinch. He's just a pawn, kill him, we don't need to waste any more time on this. Subin nods, his expression grim as he prepared to pull the trigger. The man's earlier bravado vanishes, replaced by the fear as he realizes his life is about to end. But before he can plead or scream, the bullets were already in his head with suppressed gun. Jungkook doesn't even blink as the man's lifeless body slumps on the ground, the mockery gone from his face. He turns away, adjusting his suit jacket as if nothing had happened, while Subin put away the gun, his face returning to its usual calm demeanor. Clean this up. We have more important things to deal with, he said to Subin with quiet authority. Subin nods, already moving to handle the situation. Jungkook walks away from the scene, his mind already focused on the next step, leaving the dark place and the dead messenger without a second thought. Apparently, Claire was also calling him to warn about the unforeseen trouble. Charles is in Korea, he says calmly to the man standing in front of him, looking outside the window with a stoic face. The news is confirmed. The man turned to look at Jungkook with an unreadable expression on his face. I knew he'll come to find us. It's not like he's going to stay silent after his son's death. That's not the main concern. He's probably searching you to kill you desperately. Namjoon cut his sentence. So what? Are you concerned about me, Jungkook? He asked with a small smile. We are not friends if you remember. And it's not like that. I didn't expect this day to come after all. Sure, not the one he should be targeting. Namjoon and Jungkook work together, and actually no one is aware about their partnership. If Jungkook's hidden identity is being mafia leader, Namjoon has kept it a secret that he is a covert agent. No one knows that, not even his own sister, about what his brother actually does. A law-abiding agent working with a lawbreaker criminal. It's a long story, but in short, Jungkook once had saved Namjoon's life, and since then, they have been good partners in crime. You could say they are not exactly on friendly terms, as Namjoon operates strictly within the law, while in the mafia world there are no rules. Namjoon occasionally seeks Jungkook's help in matters beyond legal limits, and in return Jungkook gains the certain benefits, getting away with few things. They help each other as a business trade and only meet when one has a favor to ask, nothing more or less. Only one thing they both agreed to work together without any favor was to kill Charles, the most wanted criminal in 23 countries including Korea. Russian mafia who deals with all kinds of gruesome things and has no fear of anyone. When Namjoon proposed a deal to catch Charles, Jungkook agreed immediately, which raises doubts about him in Namjoon's mind, but he agreed for the mission nonetheless. It's not easy to catch Charles, that's why they are together to plan bring him out of his underground hole. Namjoon knew only Jungkook can help him in this to try out the scenario to execute their next move, bringing him out for the next big deal Charles has been looking for. It'll be not as big as Charles usually did, but it'll be enough to lure him because he has not made any move for 2 years, as all Interpol police has been keeping a strict eye on him. But Namjoon knew that a psycho like Charles can't hide for so long. Namjoon himself was very close to catch him few years ago, until it almost made him lose his life. The smell of those powder and the gun is his weakness, and he can't live without them. Jungkook himself don't deal in these kinds of gruesome things, but he had made a name effective in the underworld not less than Charles himself. Not to forget, he has his eyes on him for so long. He was there when Charles escaped Spain and Namjoon was so close to catching him. That's where they also met for the first time. Jungkook's motive to kill Charles is personal, he doesn't reveal to anyone, but Namjoon knows. He knows. Their plan almost worked and Charles even got ready for the next big deal. If only he had come himself, that night would surely get killed with Jungkook's hand. But no, Charles had sent his son and his brother instead. Thinking the trade is not that big enough for his presence, they got no choice but to catch Charles' son Magnus and his brother Victor, so they can inquire about Charles, but Magnus is quite smarter, trying to run away, almost stabbing Namjoon, and Jungkook had no option. as he swings the metal rod at his head, knocking him out. Who knew that he'll die on the spot? Either he should have been killed by Namjoon or any other agent on mission to have no traces of Jungkook being involved in this mission. Namjoon had to shoot 3 bullets in Magnus' chest to seem he died because of his gun. The autopsy report has shown he already died because of the hard object hitting his head and not with the gun, but Namjoon had tried his best to hide everything. Because if Jungkook somehow get caught there, all plans will fail and everything will be out. While Victor was arrested and in watchful eyes of Namjoon, who have tortured him every day so he can spill anything about his brother Charles, no one but Namjoon was allowed to interrogate Victor, as Victor knew the secret between him and Jungkook. However, as the time passed, Victor's health began to decline. He couldn't bear the torture any longer. Despite this, he refused to say anything, as if he knew they wouldn't kill him. After all, he was the only bait they had to lure his brother Charles. Charles knows about us, he said directly, looking into Jungkook's eyes. He is way more smarter than we thought. The man didn't come here just for empty threats. He came here for something else. Something what? That night, Namjoon didn't say anything, but Jungkook knew he was hiding something from him. Not even a week had passed when Namjoon was found dead in his compound, clearly as a warning for everyone to see whoever messes with Charles will pay brutally. Jungkook wasn't scared, rather he was devastated to learn about Namjoon's death. They weren't friends as what Namjoon always claimed, but they were close, sharing things that only they could confide in each other. Namjoon was right. Charles knew that Namjoon wasn't the killer of his son. He knew who the mastermind behind everything was, and he was after Jungkook. All of this was meant to scare him, but only anger flowed through Jungkook's body as he read the words written on the wall, indicating who the next target would be. Namjoon knew this was going to happen. That's why he had told Jungkook that if anything ever happened to him, Jungkook would have to take care of Wayne. To which Jungkook had replied to don't lose hope this soon and they'll find a way to stop Charles. But as if Namjoon knew better, he already asked the viewer to marry Wayne. He knew that Jungkook was a great man who lived up to his words. He could trust no one but him. Namjoon knew that no matter how far he sent his sister away to protect her from Charles' eyes, Charles would find her, as he had contact everywhere. Charles is dangerous, yes, but he had never met Jungkook face to face yet. The cemetery was quiet, save for the soft rustling of leaves and the distant roll of thunder. Vine stood beside her brother's freshly dug grave, her eyes fixed on tombstone. As the officers paid their final respects, the weight of loneliness pressed down on her, suffocating, inescapable. She had no one left, no one to call her own. Namjoon had been her everything, her protector, her father figure, her family. He had shielded her from the world, never letting her feel the absence of their parents. Now with him gone, she was adrift, devastated, with nothing to hold on to. This is not the first time she had lost her loved ones. She had lost her father, but she was too young to understand why everyone was crying around her, and she didn't saw her dad afterwards. Her mom had left her after suffering from a long disease, and Wayne was teenager at that time, but her brother was there to support her, and now he had also left her. His promise echoed in her mind, a bitter reminder of his absence. I'll always be with you until the end. I'll protect you from everything. But now he was gone, and with him, her will to live. The irony wasn't lost on her. She was a doctor, trained to save lives, but she couldn't find a reason to live anymore herself. She had been out of the city when the news reached her, shattering her world in an instant. She had caught the next flight, desperate to see him, only to be greeted by his lifeless face in the coffin. The sight haunted her. She has lost too many people in her life that it has shattered her soul to core. After Namjoon was buried, the mourners offered their condolences before leaving her alone with her grief. Their words were hollow, meaningless. What comfort could they offer when she had lost everything? As the last of mourners left, Vine stayed sinking to the cold pavement. The world around her faded away, leaving only the emptiness inside her. Unbeknown to her, a man dressed in all black watched her from a distance. Jungkook stood silently, his gaze fixed on broken girl before him. He didn't know how to console her, didn't know what words could possibly heal the pain she was feeling. Subin standing beside him looking at his boss's face filled with so much emotion he never saw before. As Jungkook always stayed quiet and cold, hiding his emotions from everyone. Another thunderstorm struck, and Subin noticed the first drop of rain, and he quickly fetched the umbrella from the car, shielding Jungkook from the downpour. But Jungkook didn't move, his eyes never leaving Vian. The rain started to pour harder, yet Vian remained where she was, stubbornly refused to leave. Jungkook can understand her emotion better than anyone, as how it feels to left all alone in this world. He knows it all too well. Jungkook took the umbrella from Subin and motioned for him to wait in the car. Subin hesitated for a moment before nodding and leaving them alone. Jungkook approached Vian slowly, each step careful, as if afraid to break the fragile moment. He stopped just behind her and tilted the umbrella over her, letting the rain soak him instead. He didn't care about himself. All that mattered was shielding her from the storm. Vine, feeling the sudden absence of rain, looked up. Her tear-filled eyes met Jungkook's, and she saw something in his gaze she had never seen before, an emotion she couldn't name. Jungkook, usually so cold and distant, looked at her with a tenderness that caught her off guard. Jungkook rushed down in front of her, his expression softening as he took in her tear-streaked face. Her eyes were red and swollen, her body trembling from hours of crying. He had never seen her so vulnerable, so broken, and it stirred something deep within him, a fierce need to protect her from the world that had taken so much from her. It wasn't just feeling of protectiveness, but something more. He didn't want to name it. He quickly pushed that feeling aside, focusing on the task at hand. Vine looked at him through tired eyes, her brother's last word ringing in her ears. If anything ever happens to me, don't trust anyone except Jungkook. She had thought Namjoon was joking, but now staring at Jungkook's face, she realized how serious he had been. Her vision began to blur, the exhaustion overwhelming her. She fought to stay conscious, but it was losing battle. As the world faded to black, she let herself fall into Jungkook's arm, trusting him with the last of her strength. Jungkook caught her, holding her close as the rain continued to pour around them, knowing that from this moment on, he would protect her no matter what. The police has sealed the house for the further investigation, and it wasn't safe for Vine to stay there anymore. Jungkook had insisted Vine to stay at his apartment initially, but she refused his offer. Jungkook had to explain that it's for her own safety. But as if Vine had lost her will to leave, she wanted to stay someone close she knows, so she stayed at Karina's place instead. And Jungkook thought that would be the best for her now, but he timely visited her without letting her know about his presence. Also, he calls Karina to check on Vine daily basis. Even in that situation, Jungkook had secured Vine's safety. After 4 months, it was Vine who said that she was ready for the marriage, and Jungkook was shocked at first, but he understood that she just wanted to carry his brother's last wish. Namjoon always wanted them to be together for some odd reason Jungkook didn't understand at first. It couldn't be the only related to Vine's safety because Namjoon is best at guarding his sister as he done since they lost their father. It was only after Namjoon was gone and Jungkook did his own investigation he got to know that Namjoon was receiving death threats from Charles already, but he never told to Jungkook. Somehow he knew the day would come when Charles will attack and he tried his best to protect his sister, but he forgets about himself to shield. Namjoon never wanted Vine to know about his real identity or what he does. He just wanted to keep his sister away from the secret hidden in his chest for so long, so she could have a normal healthy life and dreams while he protected her silently. Vine and Jungkook got married, but their marriage was a misery arranged to protect Vine from the potential threats of Charles. As soon as they were married, Vine became his responsibility, and he made sure no one could ever even touch her. Unbeknown to Vine, Jungkook had his men working behind the scenes. They kept watchful eyes on her and any potential danger reporting back to him on daily basis. Vine was only aware of the bodyguard who always dropped her off at hospital and fetched her back home, but there were more men than one bodyguard protecting her. Jungkook was confident that Vine was safe in his house while he stayed out there searching for any traces of Charles, but since Charles was working discreetly, there was no warning or clue for him. It became difficult for Jungkook. Meanwhile, his attention was driven to Vine. They got married recently, still lived as strangers in house. Jungkook respected her boundaries, although he didn't know how to act around Vine, so he avoided her, trying not to make her uncomfortable around him and giving her time to adjust to the new place. He noticed her sadness and understood that what had happened was not easy to forget. She was fighting her inner battle, while Jungkook was struggling with his own, because he wasn't used to this kind of situation. Vine moved on with her life, keeping herself busy with hospital work, accepting her fate. Still, she couldn't shake the sadness. Jungkook usually don't stay at home, but whenever he did, he noticed her sorrow and the way she nervously glanced at him. He could no longer ignore it, and he finally gathered the courage to approach her. He realized that avoiding her wasn't the solution, and he was aware of his feelings, which he had tried so hard to suppress, but they only grew stronger. The tension between them was insane. He meant no harm to Vine, he just wanted her to feel safe, but he knew he couldn't control his feelings around her, which was why he had been avoiding her. However, when they were together, he gave in to his feelings that night. As he hovered over her, staring at her face, he realized that he had deeply fallen for Vine. When Vine closed her eyes, he was confused, wondering if she felt the same or it was only her driving him crazy. Is she allowing him to continue? He kissed her forehead instead, shocked at himself for what he was doing. He immediately turned away, lying on his side with his back facing her, closing his eyes as his heart pounded loudly, praying that Vine wouldn't hear it. He knew he needed to stay away from her. Vine wasn't good for his heart. He couldn't able to forget about that night, as the image of Vine's flustered face clouded his mind for days. Even he was at work, but he was still thinking about her. He didn't forget when Vine shared that she was depressed these days, and he wanted to make her happy, but he couldn't stay at home with her, so he asked for help of Subin. Subin was shocked at first, but nonetheless helped his boss and gave him idea to gift Vine something. It was a good idea because Jungkook didn't know he would be smiling looking at the text Vine had sent him until Claire pointed out, to which he cleared his throat, focusing on what she wanted to show him, and he quickly sent okay, didn't know what to respond. Claire informed him that she detected few suspicious movements as Charles was calm for days, means he was planning something big. Jungkook knew Charles could strike at any moment, but he never anticipated that his next target was to bomb a city mall. Many lives were lost, and this wasn't just a threat to scare him anymore. Charles was planning something bigger. The news were all over the internet as the headlines, but in the midst of chaos, he could only think of Ryan. When he reached home, his heart broke seeing her crying in the room all alone. Remembering the day she cried at cemetery, he couldn't able to control himself and immediately hugged her, letting her know that she wasn't alone and he is there to support her, trying his best, muttering few words of encouragement, telling her that everything will be alright. The next day, Jungkook had to leave as they got another lead about Charles. He doesn't want to leave Vine when she needed him most, but he also knew capturing Charles was equally important to stop whatever he was planning. After witnessing Vine crying helplessly, the thought of how many times she would have been cried behind his back broke his heart. As he wasn't there to support her, he just couldn't see her tears. So he takes the initiative and made sure to tell her about when he is going and when he'll return. This was not something in his hand, but at least this way he could offer Vine a certainty. Jungkook went to Barcelona with Subin in hope to find a clue. His informers had told him that Charles had traded a large amount of explosives from someone, clearly planning something significant. They were at a club, waiting for the man who gonna help them locating Charles. Jungkook was sure that Charles was in Korea, but someone from Insider was helping him. Because if Charles is in Korea, he is in Jungkook's territory. Charles couldn't hide for so long with his watchful eyes until someone from Insider helping him to stay low profile. They almost got drunk waiting for the said man, and Jungkook's patience was thinning each second passed. It broke the moment one of the dancers came closer to him, trying to kiss him. He snapped and almost lost his temper. He didn't like her smell at all. It made him almost puke. If Subin hadn't hold him, that dancer might end up buried alive right there. Fortunately, the owner of the bar reached at the time, the same man they were waiting for. As the rules of his business, the man didn't open his mouth to tell Jungkook about Charles easily, asking for what Jungkook can offer him back. Jungkook smug looking at Subin and Subin understands, showing him the screen where all the kinds of highly advanced weapons Jungkook traded recently were shown. The man eyes shine watching the screen. The deal was secured. They returned Korea in a hurry as Jungkook got a clue about where Charles was hiding, but he can't act on impulse and ruins everything. They needed a plan. But after returning Korea, Jungkook noticed that Vine had started to avoid him for some reason. He tried to talk to her and initiate things, but this time looks like she was the one who was replying in single words and being cold towards him. His mind went black in the crucial situation when they were planning out everything and Vine was giving him cold shoulder. His mind was occupied by Vine as he couldn't understand the reason for her sudden change of emotions. He still carried his duty to catch Charles first and decided that he'll talk to Vine later. Jungkook knew he had to act soon or he might lose this battle. He almost found the place where Charles was planning his next move and had almost got him too, but its depth looks like someone was helping him. Even though their plan wasn't disclosed to anyone except Subin and Claire, he was so close to catching him when Charles escaped from the other side of building, on the vehicle with his most trusted men. Leaving Subin and Jungkook to fight with his men to buy the time. After killing most of them, he ordered Subin to fight with the rest so he could chase the vehicle in which Charles was running away from them. Jungkook tried to puncture the tires of the car with his gun, forcing them to abandon the vehicle and run towards the he saw instead. He chased them, but the luck was on Charles' side. He took the boat and fled the scene. Meanwhile, Jungkook was shot in the back with the 2 bullets by the sniper Charles has left behind on the purpose. Jungkook turned around, his sharp eyes catches the man peeking from the building, and before the sniper could fire another shot, Jungkook already shot him on the head, despite the GSW at his back. Subin had no choice but to help his boss to house. Jungkook was only worried about that Ryan could find them, but he remembers that Ryan wouldn't be at home this time, so Subin could treat him there, as he had all the necessary equipments for the GSW. Ryan's sudden arrival was unexpected for both of them, especially Subin who was meeting her for the first time. Jungkook's eyes widened and he panicked seeing Ryan standing at the door when Subin was trying to help him. Jungkook could see the terror on her face as she looked back and forth between him and Subin, but they were glad that Ryan didn't ask much questions and helped Jungkook silently. He knew there were so many questions in her eyes, but he didn't know how to tell her everything when she was avoiding him and they didn't talk for past week at all. Ryan knew Jungkook's real identity as he made everything clear since the beginning of their marriage, and she didn't judge him for that. He remembered Ryan's word before the marriage. My brother would never trust a wild person. If he had trusted you, then I should too. He was lost of words and didn't say anything afterwards. Jungkook just tried to keep her away from his big mafia world and all the trouble it could cause, just like Namjoon. And he was glad that she didn't ask much after, respecting his decision to not disclose about it. He didn't know how she'll react once she'll know everything. But that night they both confessed their feeling to each other, which they no longer can hide. They were both from entirely two different worlds. Where Wine was sunshine and he was midnight rain. She saves lives and he takes them. She nurtures while he destroys. They were brought together only because of the fate, like the natural order of the universe. The certain events that are destined to happen and are beyond human intervention.